Hi, everybody at home. Happy post-election day, even though we don't know who the president is. And today's the day before your test. So we're going to go over some stuff. Welcome to class today. It's nice to see you all, even though you're tuning in from home. Those of you in class, starting with our homework that's on the board. Couple things I just want to point out to you guys. Obviously, your FRQ is coming up. You guys have it on Friday. You are armed with all of the words that are on that blue sheet of paper. If you have any questions, let me know if there's something you're a little confused or concerned about. Number 2, your homework tonight is to read 511 to 521. Just so you know, none of the terms and concepts from 511 to 521 are on your FRQ. Okay, but they will be tested on your multiple choice. And then finally, if you guys could just flip to the end, the first orange sheet, I believe, at the very end of your packet, looks like this. So there are like 6-ish pages there at the end of your packet, you guys. So what I did was, I know that in all my classes, all 6 that occur on A and all 6 that occur on B day, there are some students that this might be helpful for. If I'm not talking to you, it's okay, you can just be patient. What I mean by that is, some of my students in all 12 of my classes are struggling with multiple choice tests. If this doesn't apply to you, just consider it a blanket statement I'm doing to everybody. One of the better ways you can actually improve your scores is studying in a different way, and B, actually testing, practicing. I mean, you literally, just like in sports, you need to practice it. So I've compiled from different various tests. Some of them are from the College Board, some of them are from exams that I've gathered over the years. And what I did was I put all test questions related to this chapter on these orange sheets. The answers, I really apologize, I did not include the answers. They're here on the board. If you feel like you want to try that on your own, you can take a picture of that. For those of you at home, they're right here on the board, but I will also have this up here tomorrow, so you guys can take a picture of it too. I would just strongly encourage, especially those of you at home or in this class today, who are saying, I have studied really hard and I continue to not do well in the multiple choice. This is a good practice for you. So, there's your answers. That's it for homework. Our goal for today is to do a review of what we went over yesterday, which is on that board over there on the right side of Anne, humanism and traits, and then to cover social cognitive, which is on the front side of this board. I have a PowerPoint that's on Canvas for social cognitive, so those of you at home, you can follow along with the PowerPoint at home, and if we don't get through the whole PowerPoint today, you guys can certainly go on that on your own time. That's about it. That's our goal for today. Let's start. The first thing I would like you to do, you have a Post-its in front of you. I would like you to get 2 of those Post-its out, please. No name, please. Do you need some? Oh, hi. All right, so no names. Very simply, I know you've been asked this question before in your lifetime. I want you to write down, but I don't want anybody to write anything yet. I want you to think about 2 things that you are thankful for. They could be small, they could be large. It doesn't matter. We're going to relate that to Maslow's hierarchy of needs here in just a minute. Before you write, I want you just to think. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds before anybody can put a pencil to paper. It doesn't have to be what you're most thankful for. It might be. It could be small, very minor, or it could be major. Go ahead. 2 things, please. 1 on each piece of paper. No names. It's a big breath. Today I'm most thankful for my husband because it is his 59th birthday. So I'm actually thankful that his mother birthed him, and that he was born. Without him in my life, it'd be really hard. I can't imagine. Once you're done, your job is to come on up here. This should look familiar from yesterday. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We talked about this in the video. 2 things about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. 1, you need to know all these layers. Okay? And 2, what was the second most important thing I said yesterday? Does anybody remember? About Maslow's hierarchy of needs that you would need to write down if you got this on your FRQ.
Immediately accomplish one thing for your next one.
Very good. You cannot move on to another stage without accomplishing that prior stage. Does that sound familiar? I also said self-actualization, according to Maslow, most of us won't get to. If you saw the video, you saw me very embarrassingly, but I didn't care, sing my Wicked song in front of everybody, demonstrating how Elphaba defied gravity. And most of us won't get to self-actualization. Your job right now is to come on up, take one of those little thumbtacks, and put yours in the best spot that you think might fit. Now, it might not fit exactly. It might not be a perfect match, but maybe by stretching and explaining what you're not going to do, it would actually maybe go in this particular area. So you can use either side: esteem, love and belonging, safety, security, or physiological needs. Do not put anything up there. Go ahead. Take a second to do that. Thumbtacks are right there for you all. And I like your sweatshirt.
Oh, thank you.
That's a cute Hawkeye sweatshirt. Are you going there? Or not? You don't know yet?
I'm unsure right now. I've applied to some more colleges
Sure.
in the Chicago area.
You can go on top. You definitely can go, because by the end of the today, I'm going to have some kids that are going to go on top of others. Yeah, that's totally fine. So when we take a look yesterday, I thought this would be a nice way to kind of bring us back to what we talked about yesterday. We wrapped up humanism yesterday. We talked about Abraham Maslow and how Abraham Maslow believes that our personality is derived by us actually fitting in and accomplishing these particular stages of that hierarchy of needs. So, in addition, I gave the students yesterday in class a time to just cognitively think about a potential FRQ prompt and how can we use some of these terms. So Brian leaves school. If you listened to my video yesterday, this was the same prompt. Brian leaves school and he gets into a big fight. Brian has never been into a fight in his life. So it's very rare for Brian to be a fighter. Based on the term self-actualization, tell me why Brian is aggressive. First, what do we have to do first? When you're right, if you were,
State the question.
no, you need to define it. So, Anne, how would you define self-actualization?
Being like able to.
Can you read it?
I kind of can. Morally.
Morality, it says.
Oh. Morality.
So did you watch the video at all of me? So do you remember why I did Elphaba and Defying Gravity? And how I put the pictures up of the famous people, and I said he only studied a very select group of people. And those people, like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Eleanor Roosevelt, actually achieved self-actualization, but he said most of us won't. What is true self-actualization? When you become
Yourself and feel unique. like from other people?
Say it again.
Like be completely unique from other people?
Maybe unique, maybe not, but you fulfill your utmost talents and you become what you were meant to be. So through your passion, through your talents, you truly, truly become that ultimate happiness happens at your career, within your personality, when you have experienced self-actualization. You're willing to go against the grain. You're willing to stand up against what people say isn't right. It takes a very courageous person to actually achieve self-actualization.
Were they on like drugs or what?
Who?
Like,
Maslow?
yeah,
Why do you think that?
because it seems like someone who, like, is super spiritual or like.
It wasn't spirit.
Maybe, like,
Yeah, not so much. But look at who he studied, you guys. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but look at who he studied. He studied pretty strong leaders who all had those characteristics. They came that way.
Well, that's just a persuasion tactic.
Most of us would not be so strong in our belief system. Now let's go back to our Brian.
Name dropping.
What?
He's name dropping.
No, he studied them, Courtney. All right, back to our FRQ. Brian's in a fight. How do we use the term self-actualization to actually explain why he's aggressive?
Because he's not self-actualized.
So you just repeated the word.
Okay. Self-actualization is.
We already defined it.
Oh, well.
So how do we apply it?
Restate that definition.
No, I want you guys to apply it now.
Which was conflicted when Brian got into the fight, as he was not following his moral.
No. We know can Brian be self-actualized?
No.
Based on what Maslow says. Is Brian an average Joe? Yes. Can he be self-actualized? No. Okay, so we know that. What is Brian's true talent that is holding him back from being self-actualized? Make something up.
He's a phenomenal tap dancer.
Thank you. Brian is a phenomenal tap dancer. To be self-actualized, Brian would be a tap dancer and dance in his life. I'm asking you, why isn't he? Now you got to make something up. Why isn't he a tap dancer?
Because.
This is easy. No. This is the cause of it. This is no.
Because it was viewed as.
He didn't have enough support.
Yes. Okay. So look here. He wants to be a tap dancer here. Okay, to be self-actualized. He can't get there because what is stopping him? You said which level is stopping him?
Love.
Love and belonging. Brian does not have the support at home to be a tap dancer. Therefore, he cannot be self-actualized. So he takes out his aggression and anger on a kid outside. Will you be able to answer that? Do you understand what I'm saying? So you can't just say Brian is not self-actualized and therefore he hits people, okay? In order for Brian to truly be self-actualized, this is the true self Brian would be. What is holding Brian back? You could have said any of these, right? You could have said Brian is homeless, unfortunately, and he doesn't have any place to go at night. So he's not concerned about his tap dancing. He's more concerned about where he's going to sleep at night. Therefore, see, what I'm trying to get at, you guys, is Maslow said, because we are not self-actualized, it's going to cause us angst in our life. It's going to cause us anxiety. It's going to cause people to lash out like Brian and hit somebody. Makes sense? I'm not saying you agree with it.
Saying we can't talk about self-actualization because it can't be reached.
Correct.
So then how would we talk about, how
I-
do we refer to it?
I just did.
How?
You need to stop doing your Post-it notes and listen, you silly girl.
I am.
I said, Elena, help me out. You said it. Brian
Didn't have enough support.
was stuck in the love and belonging stage because nobody supported him to be a tap dancer, so he couldn't become self-actualized. And when you can't be self-actualized, he experiences anxiety and angst.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the explanation, how many sentences do you think that would take?
Like 5.
Maybe 3, 4, but not one. And I know some people at home and some people in all my classes are struggling with the FRQs because they're not explaining it enough. Okay, you have to have that backstory. We also talked about Carl Rogers yesterday. 2 important people all believing in humanism. Carl Rogers is different than Maslow. He believes in self-concept and the whole idea of your real versus your ideal self. From there, I had the students actually talk about where they find incongruency in their life and how do they find incongruency in their life. And I wanted them to take a second to think about that. So they had to write down their real self and their ideal self. So they had to think about something that was not meshing. Following me? So I gave them the example. I said, some of you have told me on paper, that you wish you weren't as quiet as you are. That's your real self. You're a quiet person. But your ideal self would be, I want to be more outgoing. But there's this big whiteboard in the middle causing this big gap. And that's incongruency. And Rogers says our goal is to get 2 Post-it notes right on top of each other so they are congruent. How do we get there? How do you get 2 Post-it notes on top of each other?
Practice.
No. You have somebody that loves you unconditionally. Now Brian's in the argument. My term is unconditional positive regard. How do we relate that, baby?
So we still on the fight?
We're still in the fight. Same prompt.
He wants to be a tap dancer, his ideal self.
His ideal self is he wants to be a tap dancer. We're staying on the theme of the tap dancing. I like it. His ideal self is he wants to be a tap dancer. His real self is,
Wildly uncoordinated.
oh, that'll work. He has no athletic ability at all. Okay, so how are we tying in this word? Because this is the word. He doesn't have support at home or anyone that loves him unconditionally that can encourage him to blend these 2 together. Scores! You guys rock. You're going to do very well on this test. Do you feel comfortable? Those are the 2. I'm not even going to say that you're going to get those words because every class gets a different test. But those are the 2 biggest words that kids struggled with. Then we went on to traits, okay? From traits, yellow sheet of paper. If you guys don't mind just quickly opening up your very first yellow sheet of paper. And on the first side of it, you'll notice I had those guys at home. I said, underline a couple words or circle. You should talk about self-report in that second sentence. That's how we're going to do those, self-reporting inventories, and then classify and describe. So here's the thing. When we think about humanism, we think about psychoanalytic, we think about reciprocal determinism with social cognitive. Traits do not care about the why. They are more concerned about what's in black right here. And I added this from yesterday. This was not up there. They're concerned about how your personality is consistent over time. And they just want to basically put it in a particular category. Gordon Allport does that, and that's on your paper. Eisnick does that, and that's on your paper. And then if you flip it over to the backside, there's the canoe. And that's an acronym for conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism, openness, and extroversion. Make sure you know what each of those mean. From there, I told them, this is not on your packet. You're going to want to make sure you know this. If you can just remember it, fine. But if not, you're going to want to write it down. And that's why I kept the board up, because I know you guys, it's hard to see when you're on video. So objective test are how we are going to assess this. Let's do a little quick review. How does Freud and psychoanalysis actually test personality? They're not called objective tests. What kind of tests are they called? Not subjective, begins with a P. Projective. They're projective tests. And then there are two types of projective tests. The one with the ink blot, what's that called? I know I took them off the front board. Rorschach. And then the other one is the storytelling one. And what's that one called? TAT. Now, objective tests, these are just used to assess trait perspective. Don't mess that up on your multiple choice. Two types of objective tests, MMPI and MBTI. I told the students yesterday, many of them have probably already taken the Myers-Briggs test, which is this one over here. Somebody said, and tried to help you, maybe it was a counselor where you're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, and they sat you down and gave you this test. There are actually some available online. They try to match your personality with a career choice. That's that in a nutshell. MMPI is a self-reported inventory, like you guys are seeing on the right-hand side of your sheet of paper there. That's called an inventory right there, where you self-report. It's relied on honesty. You could lie all you want, and then are they going to be able to give you a correct diagnosis? No. So you want to be honest if you're ever taking something like that. So a doctor's concerned that you may be depressed, and he might sit you down and say, hey, I want you, or she might sit you down and say, I want you to actually fill out this. And you would self-report, yes, I am this way, or yes, I am this way. And it might help them analyze if you actually need some further attendance regarding your depression. MMPI will help with disorders. Does anyone have questions about anything on the board? Yes, my dear.
What if you take the test and you think you're such a great person, but in reality you suck, you're just a bad person?
And so the test results come back that you suck? Well,
Well, when you come back you're good, because you filled out that you're really good, but everybody else is like, no, they're not good.
Well, wouldn't you only want to take the test, or wouldn't you only take the test if you wanted to? Like if you were coming to someone for a problem?
like if you really wanted help, is what you're saying? Maybe. I also think it might give you a good awareness. I mean, like if you were open to it, kind of what Courtney's saying, if you're open to learning more about yourself. I mean, there have been, in the past, I've had kids actually take this like you guys did, and we had time to actually score. And this is a pretty good assessment of your big 5 traits. And I've had kids go, whoa, I knew that about me, or I knew that about me. And then a particular domain scores lower, and they're like, oh, and it's kind of like a slap in the face. So I really don't know how to answer that. I know I'm kind of skirting around it, but you're only going to get help if you want the help, right? Okay. Let's look at the front of the board. I don't have anything in your packet for a handout for social cognitive, but I do have a PowerPoint for that. And so if you want, you can either just listen, take notes, plug into that PowerPoint if you're at home. What we're going to be talking about, this is our last school of thought, social cognitive. The person you need to know to associate with this is Albert Bandura. And then the key words that I'm hoping you leave here understanding are reciprocal determinism, and I'll explain what that is, and internal, external locus of control, these 2 words here, finally, learned helplessness. So that's the key component of what it is. In black on the board, I kind of just summarized, like I did over on trait, what this whole thing is about. Like if you had to do it in a sentence, all of what social cognitive believes, here it is. They emphasize the power of the situation, meaning what's going on in the environment around you. Your personality can change from moment to moment. Is that different than trait? Trait is much more interested in how stable your personality is across time and place. These guys are like, your personality can change from moment to moment depending upon the environment, depending upon how you think about things, due to our thoughts. Cognition means thought process. Never get that wrong. What's another word for thoughts? Give me some other buzzwords. Good. Keep going.
Memory.
Memory is cognition. Belief is cognition. My beliefs, right? My perceptions. Any of that, if they talk about that on the test, this has got to be the answer. Does Freud care about your belief system? Nope. Humanist? Do they care about how you perceive things? No. Ideal versus real. Trait perspective? How do you believe, your belief about things? Nope. Just social cognitive. So let me show you. All of this is on the PowerPoint too, you guys. All right, so as it states, our goal here for social cognitive is to focus how we interpret and respond to things going on around us. And the whole thing is, if you went to a psychologist that was a social cognitive psychologist, they would try to change the way you think about things. So I'm depressed. Okay? I go to a psychoanalysis. What are they going to tell me of why I'm depressed? This is Freud. Why am I depressed according to Freud? Something happened in the past, childhood, something like that. Humanist, why am I depressed?
Because you lack emotional support.
Yeah, that could be it. And these two aren't aligning in some way. You would make up a scenario. Are you following me here? I'm not depressed. A trait psychologist would say, I'm just what? I'm just sad. Yeah. Or I kind of like to be by myself. That type of thing. Like, think about the traits of a depressed person. They just want to be alone, that type of thing. Oh, they wouldn't analyze me that you're depressed. They would just say, oh, you're alone. You're a loner. Now, social cognitive, why am I depressed? You need to change my thought process. What are you going to tell me to do if you're my therapist? Think happy, look on the bright side. Anything else? You guys are good. These are good.
Look in the mirror and
The glass half full. Look in the mirror and what?
tell yourself that you are a bad B-word. B-word.
That I can conquer anything.
Yeah.
That this depression is nothing. Get dressed, take a shower, get out of bed, change the setting. It'll help change your thought process. Some actually would even say, you should probably exercise, because exercise will help your thought process change, right? Be with me? Yeah, now are you getting at it? More importantly, do you see the difference of how I just went through each of those different would express depression? Okay. I'm setting you up for the end of the year by continually doing that, by the way. All right, guys. They believe the personality is developed by three things: cognition, environment, and behavior. You can't take away one. You can still see the word. I'm trying to cover up the word. But you can't take away one. All three of these things impact us. Psychoanalysis would say, what is impacting your depression? Only one of those, and which one would it have been? Which one would it have been? My environment, that's right. Okay, so something that happened a long time ago. So this is right here. Behavior, our cognitive thoughts are influenced by our environment that shapes our behavior. All three of these things are continual. They're also known as reciprocal. Reciprocal determinism. That's an important word that you're going to want to know. Guys, I asked my first hour what reciprocal means right here, and I got a bunch of math answers. I'm not a math person, but they were way off. Is that the only place you've ever heard the term reciprocal?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like reciprocal.
All right. When we think about reciprocal in psych class, what are we talking about?
The opposite end of the spectrum.
No. I love how you're always helpful though. She's like never afraid to say anything. Reciprocal.
both sides put in like the same effort?
Yeah, both sides put in equal amounts of effort type of thing. Or one thing is weighed as equally as the other. So my marriage may be successful if my husband loves me and I love him. Make sense? It's reciprocal. Courtney asked me to help her move last weekend. I said, sure. And then this weekend, I have to move. She reciprocates that help by saying, okay, I'll help you. So all of them are impacted by one and the other. So when we talk about your environment influences your environment, let's talk about this. Is your behavior impacted by your environment?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Anybody know any anxious people? Don't list any names.
Yes.
Okay. If you've ever been to Mines of Spain or Devil's Lake, anybody been to either one of those places?
Yes.
So you can do some nice hiking, and when you're hiking, you're up on some cliffs and you're up on some ledges. If you have an anxious person prior to going to those places and they come with you to those places, what will the environment do to their anxiousness? Make it up, make it go up. So the environment can actually encourage that anxious thought process. Do you see how that's reciprocal? Okay? And then their behavior, they might start acting super anxious and nervous around the ledge, causing them to potentially fall or not think through things clearly. And then similarly, you could have somebody super calm in the same environment at Mines of Spain or at Devil's Lake, super calm, and that cliff doesn't bother them. Would maybe my behavior fend off my anxious friends and make them feel a little bit more calm? Do you see how behaviors can be impacted by the environment and how they can have this domino effect? All right, so reciprocally, yes.
My uncles,
Yes?
two of them, and they were really close in age. They must have been like in middle school, but they went for a hike, and it was like really kind of close to their house, but there was like a cliff. And one of them fell off and broke his back. He's alive and like A-okay.
Mines of Spain?
No, it was just like somewhere near their house. But
Oh,
he really fell off that.
how scary. I was kind of stopping because I know somebody that years ago at Mines of Spain went over the cliff and they had to airlift him out of there.
Wow.
So it does happen, unfortunately. Okay, now don't write any of this down. I want to give you an example of reciprocal determinism by breaking down Nelson Mandela and his characteristics. I chose him for two reasons. One, it's important to remember certain people in our historical lives that made big impacts. Number two, you and I are far from a Nelson Mandela, and this is why. First of all, he was found guilty in '64 of plotting against that all-white South African government. And here's the type of conditions he lived in. 7 foot by 9 foot, bread every day and meat every other day. He was able to have outside contact with the rest of the world every 6 months. He could write one letter and one visitor, and that's it. For the remainder period of the time, up until that 6-month period of time, he was completely almost isolated from the outside world. The conditions were, if he shut his mouth, they would let him out of jail. Most of us sitting in this room, including myself, I don't know if I'm that passionate about anything that I would give up my life and live in these conditions to say, if you're going to let me out, all you have to do is be quiet. What caused his personality to be so diverse that caused him to spend this amount of time in jail? 27 years. 27 years he lived in those conditions. Let's break it down. 3 things. Cognition. What was his belief system? His belief system was, he was born into this African tribal royal family, which was true, and they raised him with the belief system that you're going to be a leader, you're going to lead with courage, you're going to lead as a ruthless person that's not going to let people put you down, and you're going to stand up for what you believe in. Now, this might seem really far-fetched for you guys to kind of relate to. So in another classes, what I did was I related it to sports a little bit. Brian, soccer, am I right? You play soccer? You used to. Anybody still in any athletic events in this class? What do you do, Nick?
Well,
Okay, cross country. I think soccer might be a little bit easier to grab a hold of. So we're going to pretend you're still playing, okay? So, Brian, this is for real. Did you play at a very young age? Your parents put you in. You didn't probably come walking to them and saying, you know, at a very young age, our parents choose to say, I'm going to put you into theater. I'm going to put you into this. They raised you with a belief system that you are going to play, that you're pretty good, and you started to develop a sense of confidence. In some of my other classes where kids are very, you know, they're still in their sports, it was very easy to relate. So I don't know if this is a harder analogy for you guys, but if you can imagine how some parents are raising their kids with that belief that you will be a basketball player, or, you know, from a very young age, you are going to be a swimmer. In one of my other classes, we were talking about that. And they did this their whole youthful life. That was him. His whole youthful life, he was raised with that belief system of what type of leader he was going to be. How did that impact this? His behavior then followed through with it. Any of those little athletes from a very young age who are raised with that belief system that they are going to be a good athlete by the time they come to Hempstead, have that courage to follow through with it. And then they say, all right, these are all the things I learned. These are all the things I believe. And now I'm going to walk that onto that wrestling mat and I'm going to follow through with that. He led protests because he believed he was a leader. He led people at marches because he knew he had to speak out because that's what he was groomed to believe. Now, could he have done that in the United States of America? Potentially. If he immigrated here. Would it have been as effective? Definitely not. He was in the environment where he saw every single day the white oppression of black people. He lived in apartheid. He knew what it was like to be a part of that. It'd be like me raising a child saying, you're going to be an amazing wrestler, but never giving them the chance to go wrestle. He actually saw it. It's like going to all the tournaments that little kids go to all their whole young life. And then by the time they get to Hempstead, it's just second nature for them. And that's what he had. So all three of these things, you can't erase one of these and say we have a Nelson Mandela. If he didn't believe it, even if he lived in the environment and maybe he had that behavior, he still had to believe he was going to be a leader. If you erase the belief, if you erase the environment and he had the behavior and the thoughts, this was strongly impacting each. Do you see how each weighed pretty equally in the measurement of him becoming the man he was? It's reciprocal. All of these three things are reciprocal toward one another. That's I hope, a clear example of reciprocal determinism. And the end result is he ended apartheid after 300 years. Huge, 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 huge thing. 76, he was elected the first black African to be president of South Africa. So, do we feel like we understand reciprocal determinism, how three of those things impact each other? It's not just one isolated thing. Okay, so with that being said, I'm still depressed. Now you're a social cognitive theorist. Why am I depressed? Start here. I'm depressed because I believe, make something up,
You aren't as successful as other people.
I'm not a successful teacher as other people. That is influenced by,
Lots of people around you being super successful.
okay, the people I work with and they're super successful. Good. And my behavior, what happens to my behavior every day at school then?
I'm not as enthusiastic.
Not enthusiastic, right? Coming to work every day, or maybe not even coming to work, calling in sick a lot. All three things have the power to influence my personality? You bet. Okay, good. I'm going to give you a piece of paper. Keep it flat down. All right. Have you guys ever heard of an anagram? I think it's a word that's jumbled. The letters are jumbled, and then you have to unscramble them. So I'm giving you 3 words. Your job is to listen and do the directions exactly as I state. You're going to do the first one. You're going to unscramble it. Once you're done, flip it back over to the back side like this. Don't go on to number 2 and raise your hand. That's it. Rules are you have to use every letter and you actually have to unscramble it. You cannot keep it the way it is and say it's already a word. Make sense? Go.
For each one.
Nope, just number 1. Until I say put them down. Let's go on to number 2. Everybody, even if you didn't get number 1, go on to number 2. Let's try number 3. So we're going to stop due to time. Sometimes I do things in class and it works out really well, and sometimes I do things in class and it doesn't work out so well. This is a good example how doing an activity like this has worked in every other class but yours, and we're on video. Let me explain what happened. 2 of you had the first word as bat. There were 2 separate sheets of paper that went out. 2 of you can flip them back over. 3 of you had the first word as whirl. Whirl is unsolvable. You can't make a word out of that. What is bat? What is bat? What did you make? What's the word? Tab. Okay, you 2 had solvable words. You 3 had unsolvable. Second word for you 2 was lemon, and you made it melon. Your 3 second word? Slapstick. Unsolvable.
What if you say stick slap?
No. Are you following me so far? Are you seeing why I wanted you to keep your hands up? Why did I want you to keep your hands up? What were you feeling when these two, Anxiety, pressure. Oh my God, why are they getting this and I'm not getting this? Brian got it like right away. Courtney rolled in real quick after that.
I wanted to find a better word. What if I'm just thinking?
Okay, wait. Third word was all the same. All 5 of you had the same third word, and it was solvable. The word was, and what did you make it to be? American. Okay. What I'm trying to demonstrate is what tends to happen is you 3 in all my other classes tend to do what by the time you get to that third word? Give up. Like, I don't know these. I got 1 wrong, I got 2 wrong, and I'm getting all these wrong. These people are having their hands up, especially effective if I have a class size of like 25 and half the class has got their hand up and you're like, what the heck? Am I just stupid? Like, why am I not getting this? This is called the power of belief. What do I mean by this? What Bandura spoke about is said, if you believe you are in control versus if somebody is controlling you will actually impact your behaviors. So the belief, right? Our thought process. If you have internal locus of control, you believe you can continue on with that. I can do this. I can get it. If you believe you have external locus of control, you think others control your fate. What I demonstrated in less than 3 minutes was a term called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness, where you start to give up. No matter what I do in my life, it isn't going to get any better. Makes sense? Do you understand how in an abusive situation, a woman that's being abused consistently by a man would say, no matter what I do, I'm giving up because it's not going to get any better. You don't need to erase these. I will recycle these on your way out.
I went to the very end, didn't I?
Yes. Hey guys, the rest of this PowerPoint, if you want to take a look, it's on Canvas. I hope you have a wonderful day and you can just recycle that on your way out. We'll see you on Friday. Goodbye, everybody at home. We'll see you tomorrow. They're saying bye to you here.